Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. So for today's video, I want to talk about the 4 reasons why I believe we are not headed towards a market crash. Now, if you're spending any time at all on the internet, you've probably seen numerous articles and videos talking about a market crash coming in 2023. Now, a lot of people are comparing what could happen in 2023 to what we experienced back in 2008 during the Great Collapse. Of course, as I go through and give my reasons, if you have any differing opinions or insight, please feel free to comment below. So let's go through the 4 reasons why I think it's going to be a completely different market correction from the crash in which we experienced back in 2008. Number 1, tighter regulations and restrictions in the mortgage industry. From 2004 all the way up to 2008, there were a lot of predatory lending practices going on, especially with subprime mortgages. What you had was a scenario where people were getting approved for mortgages that had no business getting approved. There were less regulations and less oversight, which allowed almost anyone and everyone to get a mortgage.
We want to take out a hefty loan.
Of course. Do you have an account with us?
And how?
What is your account number?
7.
7?
Back in 2008, when the government had to bail out the big banks, they started to also tighten and implement policies which would actually regulate the mortgage industry a lot better. This makes it where even today, it is a lot more stringent and a lot more difficult for anybody to get a mortgage. There's more hoops, more checks and balances and things that everyone has to go through. So as a result, this is completely different from what we experienced back then. Now, the second reason why I believe we're in a completely different environment is the housing crisis. If you haven't been paying attention to the news lately over the last few years, we're actually experiencing a nationwide housing crisis. There's been significant demand for people looking for homes and very little supply, which has also caused the prices of homes to drive up tremendously. Now, this driving up of prices is also what leads people to speculate that we could see a crash. However, knowing that there's going to be a very high level of demand for the foreseeable future, we are in a completely different environment than what we were in 2004 to 2008. Right before the market had collapsed in 2008, what we noticed is there was a lot of homes on the market and not enough people to buy them. So we almost had an oversupply issue, whereas now we have a demand issue. Number 3, almost no negative equity. So imagine it's 2008, you just bought a home and you spent $500,000 on it. Once the market collapses, let's say now your home is worth $350,000. You're now in the hole $150K and you took out a mortgage for $500,000. This is what we would call negative equity, and this put a lot of people in a pinch when the market originally collapsed in 2008. The way things are different now is that a lot of people who have bought their homes over the last decade or even the last few years have seen insane amounts of appreciation as prices have skyrocketed due to that supply and demand issue that we mentioned earlier. Now, as a result of these prices skyrocketing, even if the market were to correct 30, 40, even 50%, there are going to be a lot of people that still have a good amount of equity in their property. So the likelihood that everyone will lose equity and see values plummet and go down is very unlikely. Now, don't get me wrong, as the Federal Reserve continues to tighten up on policy and raise interest rates, as well as tighten the labor market, we will see people losing their jobs, which will cause more foreclosures to come onto the market. However, this is going to be a completely different situation from before because a lot of people still have so much equity. So even where they may be laid off of their jobs, they could always cash out that equity and be able to stay in their homes. Not financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor. Number 4, credit scores are at an all-time high. Experian recently put out a report that showed that over the last decade, credit scores have grown to all-time highs. The average credit score reported last year from Experian was 714. What this tells us is that Americans are actually able to pay off their debts and keep their scores high, which is a lead indicator that people are able to make their payments on time. So even back then in 2008, credit scores weren't that high, and that was a good indication that people were over their heads in their mortgages and couldn't afford their payments. Now, keep in mind, no one has a crystal ball. No one knows exactly what's going to happen. All we can do is speculate. But just based on this information, I think it's safe to say that we're not going to experience a similar crash to what we experienced back then. But I would say that we definitely are in for a rough correction, which is probably overdue. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, so let me know what you think about this upcoming housing market correction. Are we going to go through a crash? Are there maybe some details that I'm missing? If you found the video helpful, please drop a like. It really helps the algorithm and helps the channel. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so I can continue to update you and provide you information just like this. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to talking to you guys in the next one. Peace.